This week at Hey the Parents, we're talking all about grandparents. The ones who love our kids fiercely, spoil them shamelessly, and sometimes forget that they can pass the torch to now as parents. What happens when well-meaning grandparents overstep? We'll dive into the most common generational clashes, from too many sweets, too few rules, to outdated parenting advice, but this is how I did it moments. We'll share some of our own stories, and most importantly, we'll talk about how to set boundaries with love, because keeping the peace with the family doesn't have to mean losing your sanity. Because in Hey the Parents, it's an honest discussion about raising kids. I'm Michael Height.
I'm Sarah D.
I'm Mike Levine.
Kids don't come with a handbook, so we need your help.
Where do babies come from?
Where do you think they come from?
Is this a kissing book?
Mama! Mama!
What?
Hi.
I learned it by watching you.
There are no rules in this house. Not like a regular mom. I'm a cool mom.
We sent them to the best boarding schools. We hired the best nannies. We did everything right.
Hey, Mom! The meatloaf!
No drinking, no drugs, no kissing, no tattoos, no piercings, no ritual animal slaughters of any kind.
Together, we can rule the galaxy as father and son.
This is Hey Other Parents, an honest, messy, imperfect show for raising kids.
Hey, welcome back. It's us again.
What's up?
Hello. Toodly-doo?
Toodly-doo.
All right. Now we can start. We're so glad that you're here to hang out with us as we figure out this parenting thing in season 3 of Hey the Parents. So whether you are in the car, folding laundry, cooking dinner, getting organized, or on the go, we know that you have a lot of choices for podcasts out there. So thank you for listening to ours. And of course, we'd like to send a big welcome to our new moms and dads listening. A big hearty hello to the returning listeners who are back to put up with us for yet another episode. So if this is the first time joining us on this podcast, Hey the Parents, it is a chance for a few of us parents who decided that we need to join our efforts together and try to get through this, as we call it, a survival course. Each week, we pick a different topic or a theme. We discuss it from the standpoint of when we were younger, what we grew up with our own parents, and then we shift on over to now as adults, where we certainly did not get a handbook with our kids. We talk about what we go through, we share our experiences, and we learn from each other. And every week, we feel a little bit better because we have each other and we have all of you. So we'd love to hear from you guys for our show. This is kind of the theme of the episode. The question this week is, what is the funniest or most frustrating grandparent move that you guys have experienced? We'd love to hear from you. If you'd like to answer this question, have comments for the show, you can get in touch with us one of 3 ways. You could leave a message on our Hey the Parents voicemail line. You can email the show, or you could join us on social media. All that information is in the show notes. And without further ado, we're going to jump right into the main part of the podcast, and that entails our topic of the week on this fine start of the fall morning. Sarah D, what are we talking about today?
All right, so this episode, we're talking about dealing with our parents and our children, and how do we help them foster a wonderful bond and keep our sanity and more importantly, keep the peace. Old school versus new school.
We told you guys when you were listening to this podcast, we told you we were going to talk about the things you don't normally get to talk about. This is one of those instances. Last night, my wife and I were just, we're on the couch. We're watching some shows with the kids, and actually watching Scrubs, which is really entertaining to watch all these years later. Or season 2 is really good. So, anyways, we're watching it, and I'm just tinkering around with the notes for the show. And my sister and I are texting, and my wife's on this chat, and we call it Florida because my sister and my sister are in Florida, and that chat is Florida. So anyway, we're texting back and forth, and my wife is reading text from my sister about like us growing up. She's like, "You can't say that. You can't say that." And I'm like, "Well, it's like one of those things where you gotta have to it's like in context. You read it out of context, it probably doesn't sound so great, but it was growing up, and as we all know, that sometimes with grandparents and sometimes with parents, and we perceive things different ways. And I'm sure when you guys look back at your time with your maybe with your grandparents, unfortunately sometimes some people they didn't have that opportunity, maybe their grandparents passed, but just watching like maybe your parents interact with other older family members, you like perceive things differently, and then you grow up and you kind of have that moment where you're like, oh my God, wait a minute, hold on a second, let me put myself back in that situation. How would I have felt if I was sitting there at the dinner table while all this is going on? But we're going to try to explore a little bit of that today and have a little fun. And we get to reflect. We're going to pop this BuzzFeed article open too, and then maybe we'll feel better. Maybe we'll be like, okay, all right,
Yeah,
maybe
like, that's
maybe
not
our
bad.
life wasn't as kooky as we maybe imagined, because by the extreme circumstances that get picked out in these articles, we should basically always feel better, because they scour Reddit and they find all the things that people
Yes.
say. So they're like, oh, that one's too calm, that's too neutral. Exactly. All right, so why don't we jump into maybe the past, maybe how things had gone. I know Sarah, you didn't have the grandparent situation maybe like Mike and I did. So what was that?
Yes.
What was that like?
So I was always like jealous that everyone had like, I'm going to my grandma's house, or my grandma got me this. And I was like, oh man, that must be nice to have like a, like fairy godmother type of person just loving on you. But I did have an Aunt Josie and Aunt Nancy who were great grand aunts. So they were,
Nice.
they were right. They were there, it was kind of cool. Not my grandma, but I dig them. They're all right. But then I also have to say, when as I'm like reflecting now, I did have like the honor or privilege of getting to know some older folks, like neighborhood peoples, and they were like slightly grandparent-ish. So I guess I got to experience a little something, but I did have one very vague memory of my grandma. I was probably like 2-ish, almost 3.
Wow.
Where she was like with us for a little bit. And she was in the spare bedroom. I remember opening the door. I remember her opening her arms to me, like I guess she was excited to see me, because I'm amazing. And
You are.
and I was she was like holding me, and I was like, she had like a heart monitor thing, like coming out of her like chest, like or in her pocket or something. And I went to play with it. My mom like came out of nowhere. She's like, no, don't touch that.
What does this button
And
do? Yeah.
I know, and I was like, she's like beep boop bop. She looked like a robot. I was like, cool. I was like, I don't know who this lady is, but I like her. She's nice. And I got yelled at, and then I remember her saying, because she was speaking in Spanish, but basically the idea was like, don't worry about it. And my mom was like, no, like don't touch it. And that was it. That was my memory of my grandma. But
And then you moved on to pushing your mom's buttons instead.
exactly.
Sorry, it was just there.
I like that. Was good. Like, that was like metaphoric and like figurative. I like that.
Yes.
That's good.
So
Well done,
That's a
Hyde.
good
Well done.
memory, though.
So
was.
I saw that Mike, you wrote down about like sitting and having like guava and tea. What was that? It was like really sweet.
Oh yeah, well, my grandparents were great, and one thing I always remembered was my grandma would have tea at night, and she was over a lot because my mom, was a single parent for a while, and she would come and visit and help out a lot more, and when she would stay over, she would always make tea at night, and then I would join her, and we would just talk, me and her, and we would sit there, and she would always get these crackers with like a guava in the middle. It's like I forgot what they were, but they were amazing, and I don't know if they were amazing because I was just sitting there with Graham eating cookies and drinking tea at night, or the cookie was actually just that good.
Awesome.
But it was a good memory,
Aw.
Yeah.
That's so funny because
really
like
cool.
Sophia has that memory of my mom is drinking tea with her. So
Really?
yeah, Sophia loves tea because of that. Oh, okay, that's so sweet.
I love tea too, but I've switched to coffee, but it's like I don't know.
but when you're little, like Sophia's been
Yeah.
drinking tea since she's like 2 years old,
Yeah.
like
yeah.
Got like
Like an old
pinkies
lady.
out, ready to go.
Yep.
Yeah. You have anything sweet like that, Mike?
Oh man, that was a segue and a half. Look at you, that's dirty.
I know,
So
look
I
at
was
that.
thinking about that too. I was thinking about I've probably said this in the podcast like too many times, but when we were really young, my mom's parents, they moved to Florida for my grandfather's health because he's asthmatic. Why am I saying this so weird? Asthmatic. What's asthmatic? Asthmatic. And he like in the wintertime it wasn't good for him, so that because who knew if it was the asthma or if he used to be a baker and do bagels. So like all the flour, who even knows? But anyway, they moved to Florida when we were really little, and we would visit them a couple times a year or once a year. And I do remember like just sitting. It's funny. Like, you initially always think of the big things, but I started to think back because I'm just seeing like some of the stuff that you guys wrote. I remember sitting. They had like in Florida like a lot of those elderly communities. They're like these little like trailer style homes. They're not like trailers, but they like kind of those homes they build upon like the ground. They have like these big parks of these homes that come in like 3 different styles, whatever. So we'd go down there. There's 55 and older communities, and I remember like we would sit on their like little like what do they call that, like a sunroom or 3/4 room, 3 seasons room, and sipping on some orange juice, the fresh squeezed Florida orange juice, and having a breakfast, and then just sitting out there. And I remember I would like, I don't know, I got on a kick of like writing like silly fictional stories. And I remember like how encouraging they were. I just sitting there and write these ridiculous stories, and I'd be so proud. And like, I just remember those little moments, and like I'm sure like from my perception, like it was like the best, like just hanging there doing that. I'm sure I can imagine my parents were like tearing their hair out, like just like sitting there like, are we doing anything today? But for me, those moments they meant a lot. Just sitting there and doing nothing was pretty awesome. But it's a wild time. I remember going down there. It was cool to. Like you cross over the border into Florida, you hit the Welcome Center, they have fresh orange juice, then you start seeing the palm trees, and it's on, baby. But it's it was definitely a good time, And I'd mentioned too that we'd roll up in the car, my grandparents would be waiting outside. I don't know how long we were waiting there, but they'd wait outside and we'd roll up, and my grandfather would be like, "Looky, here comes Cookie," which I think is the best line ever. And he called me Big M, which is great because I'm sure my sister really appreciated that. She's like, "I'm the bigger one, 4 years older. I'm also Melissa. I'm an M."
That's what dude, that's what it's all about.
No, that's Big M.
That's what it's all about. Those warm moments with your grandparents. Like remembering those cool, like all the things your grandparents may have done for you, but like or tried to teach you. But there's always those like warm moments you could always reflect on or go back to that just give you all the warm cuddles inside.
Yes.
It's funny too because I feel like the things that like oddly you feel like in your own home or with your own parents like could have been the same thing, but like cooking with grandparents or like having a job of being like like I guess you're like feeling like independent enough to like do some stuff or be useful was like a cool thing. I remember like they didn't have like a dishwasher because like the style of like whatever those homes, so like we had to wash the dishes, my sister had to wash and I had to dry, and it was like yeah, I'm sure like in the moment it was like a little annoying, but we were like so proud, we probably weren't screaming at each other who was going too slow or too fast or whatever else, but or even like cooking with my grandparents was really cool, but those are things that like they and once again probably my parents or else was like they're probably dying ready to eat already, like, can we speed up in there, what's going on? But as a kid it probably means a lot.
It makes you wonder too, like your kids now, like will they remember those warm moments they have with their grandparents and stuff like that, and kind of just like what will they remember,
Right.
Yeah, and it's funny too because like I'm because family's so different on 2 different sides of the family, right? So sometimes like you have these experiences like where you go somewhere to see family, or you just have like those those lazy Sundays. My wife's or my dad, his mom would come over after my grandfather passed away, and she would just like Sundays would be like she would read through like a stack of like 410 newspapers that came that week, and then the golf would go on the TV. She had full control over all the entertainment, and we would just be sitting on the couch, be like, "When are we going to the diner? When are we going to the other place?" And it was just whatever, But I think that was definitely like some patience on my mom's part. It was like, you could sense it, How about you guys? Did you notice like any sort of like things that maybe you didn't notice at the time? That like with the interaction between your parents and their parents.
Well, there was definitely things that I noticed rather than not so noticed.
Oh yeah.
Family gets into it. Maybe not so much with my parents, but I know that like with my grandfather, he would irk my grandmother sometimes, like,
really?
just like with her cooking. Like Graham's cooking was amazing. You don't mess with Graham's cooking.
Oh, and he would
that was the general rule of the matriarch of our family. Do not mess with this old Puerto Rican cooking, right? And Grandpa threw ketchup on the rice, and that was the end of it.
Oh, yeah. Oh.
You have like a long, arduous relationship with ketchup. It's wild.
That's right. I don't know what it is. I like ketchup too. I do.
Yeah, I know you think like you would be like Indiana Jones with snakes when it comes to ketchup. It's crazy.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't know what it is. You know, honestly, with yellow rice, if you guys ever had like Spanish yellow rice, ketchup, not too bad. But on it, like you throw a little ketchup on there, kind of mix it in. It's not too bad. But anything else, you don't throw it on rice and beans. Definitely,
No.
that's for sure.
Gosh.
It sort of feels like
Grandpa would do that.
Where like you go to a Chinese restaurant and like you're just starting dumping soy sauce in it, and I know it's not the same thing, but like that moment where like everyone is probably horrified in the restaurant looking at you guys like, what do you do?
Yes, no, but okay, it kind of is because it kind of doesn't really like. Apparently, you don't use soy sauce in everything, you know?
Right.
Yeah. But this one time we were just sitting at, we were in Puerto Rico. We were sitting at the dinner table. Graham served us, and all of a sudden, I don't know how he even got the ketchup because Grandpa would never get up to get the ketchup. But the ketchup was there.
He probably got a kid to do it.
Exactly. Either me or my brother or something.
Yeah.
You know, and I just remember him pouring on ketchup, and oh my God. Now, there's a lot of there's a lot of hurricanes that kind of hit Puerto Rico because of its location, right?
Yes.
Well, this was the hurricane of Grandma Lucy.
Oh,
my God.
Oh, God.
That's wild.
You do not put ketchup on. And ever since then, I never put ketchup on rice, you know?
Right.
I mean, I was a kid.
Idea
I
of
don't
like ketchup showing up like underneath the table or like
Right.
sending like one of the
Small
unsuspecting
packets of ketchup.
grandkids to like go get it. Yeah, exactly. Oh yeah, packets. That's so funny, Sarah.
She probably was wondering the same thing too.
He like lifts up the plate and there's like a hidden little Heinz packet. Like, oh man.
Oh yeah. So
Squirt.
basically,
Like, oh jeez.
to go back to what you were saying, Mike, I don't know. Graham didn't really. Maybe it was that old Puerto Rican attitude, you know.
Hysterical.
But she did not hide it.
I feel like this is like for season 3. There's like a new T-shirt idea of like Mike Levine's long, arduous history with ketchup. Just it needs to be like your face on a Heinz bottle or something. I don't know.
Oh my God.
God, it's wild. Sarah, do you remember like any sort of like things that you didn't really pick up and or that you realized later, or like you'd see like interactions with like maybe your parents and like older relatives or stuff that like made a little more sense later on?
So, didn't know back in the day, my mom and like the aunts, they had like some serious beef like together. Like they didn't like my mom. They were like mean to her. And like, but now reflecting back, like, I'm like, oh man, I'm like, they were not nice to my mom.
Oh, so you picked up on it.
I picked up on it when I got older and she started telling us stuff. When I was little, I was just like, we're all family and everyone loves each other.
And this is how we tease each other with love.
I know. I just make fun of my mom.
Like, oh, you're so silly.
Yes.
No one's laughing though.
No, my mom's not laughing. And once again, my parents are fighting. Oh no. But I do remember my mom always tells this story about my Aunt Josie, who was, so my dad was raised by Aunt Josie and Aunt Nancy. Also my grandmother. They all lived in like a 3-story house, like brownstone, I guess, back in Brooklyn or whatever. And so they all lived together. So my dad was kind of like, he bopped around all like the houses or apartments. And so Aunt Josie was like the matriarch of the family. And she went to my parents' house and she brought over this like fake fruit basket and she threw out my mom's like real fruits or like she put it back in the fridge. Like, and my mom was so upset. Like she would always talk about that story. She's like, and then she put like a fake fruit basket on my table when I had real fruit that was nice and stuff like that. So she always like, and I always be like, what's the big deal? And then I didn't realize until she got older, like when I got older, that there was like, it was like beef. Like it was like done, like I guess maybe she felt like on purpose. And then another funny story, so my dad's side is Italian, my mom's side being, Hispanic. She's from Ecuador. So my mom got plantains. And, you know, back in the day, she would always explain like how like plantains, mangoes, things like that were hard to find in the supermarket. So she found plantains in the supermarket. Now, if you know anything, the sweet ones, they turn black, and that's when they're sweet. So she had the black plantains, you know, hanging out, ripe, ready to get eaten, cooked. And Aunt Josie came by, saw them, probably thought my mom was a disgusting housekeeper, you know, and like threw them out. And my mom was like, and she got like new bananas that were nice and yellow. And my mom had asked her, like, where are the, you know, the plantains? And she's like, those rotten bananas. She's like, no, those were like good. And yes, that was another story. That was always, you know.
No cultural clash at all. Wow.
No, none. And they like, and again, my mom was convinced that she did these things like on purpose. And then on top of that, she was like, it was so hard to find those like plantains. I was like so happy to, you know, like to have them. And then like there they are in the garbage. So that is so, oh my God, your poor mom. I know. I'm like, oh man, like that kind of sucks.
That is brutal. That's like one of those things that like you just feel now you're like, you could almost put yourself in that shoes as your mom and be like, oh God.
I know. I think
do I say something? Do I not say something? You know.
I know. I think my brain would have exploded probably.
Oh, yeah. I can't even imagine. Oh my God. I'm sure there were like probably 17 other things that happened in between those things.
Oh, I'm sure. There's like tons. Like my mom has never like told me or forgot or you know.
I know, but it's funny because like I look back.
Time or space to share all the terrible stories.
Yeah. Oh, I know. This is like therapy, right? But then like I think about like my when we go to Florida, like my dad would just like vanish and he would go fishing, and he would just like. You know, he would like, cause this community, whatever, like all these elderly communities would have like lakes, whatever. So like, he would go fishing and just vanish for a long time. And I think like, you know, it was just like separating himself from, you know, my mom's parents. And I'd almost be like, "Where's Dad? Like, we should be all together." She sort of danced around the issues, but like, you know, who knew? Maybe it was just like, this is better. This is for the best, you know. And then I remember like it was also like the flip side, because then my grandmother would come over, you know, from Queens. My dad would pick up my grandmother. She'd come to the house. You know, they'd hang out all Sunday afternoon, and so many opinions. And I think my mom just had to like sort of like try to like keep it together, but it was like, oh man, there had to be a few boiling over points, I'm sure, you know, because like then my dad would go, you know, he'd pick her up, he'd vanish, you know, and then you come, you know, for grandma over. My sister and I were upstairs, be like, get down here, you know, say hi to grandma. And then we come downstairs, we'd hang out, have dinner, and then my dad would go and drive her home because she didn't have a car, so he would drive her home back to Queens. And I think that was like the moment where my mom was probably just like, the shoulders would go down. You probably calm her. You know?
She's like, oh God.
But I feel looking back on it, you could definitely see it, you know. But then it was like, you know, it's just a wild time, you know. But as a kid, like I don't know how much you really pick up on some of this stuff, like unless it's just out in your face. But like, all you're just like, that's just my family, you know. But it's
right.
It's only when you have kids, yeah. Or you like see yourself at that age and like trying to like feel how they're feeling, and it's just such a wild ride to think about. Like, you know, you have no real awareness, but like you just see like what a difference there is between how it goes. But maybe we could think about now that we have kids, you know, what is that like now, having that you know, the parenting lens now of it all.
Well, to speak to that, Mike, like my kids are around their grandparents a lot, you know, both sets, or you know, now my mother, since my dad passed away a couple years ago, you know, or so. But when they were around, you know, and they were babysitting for us, you know, or just watching our kids or whatever, they would get into fights, you know, and they would do things, you know, they typically do, you know, as a married couple, as their own, you know, values and ideas. And one thing I do now that I guess wasn't done to me in the past was like when I encountered these fights, or when I was younger, nobody explained to me like what was going on. So like if my parents or, you know, Taylor's parents argue in front of my children, you know, I kind of just like go over, you know, what has happened, because they'll come home and be like, Dad, you know, Grandma and Grandpa were mad at each other. You know what I mean? Right. So So like I'll try to make some type of sense of the argument that they saw, and try to break it down for them, and and just try to tell them, like, Grandpa's raised his voice, but he doesn't hate Grandma, or something like that.
Right.
Yeah, no, that's true.
Pretty forward thinking.
Because it could be like a little scary, when you're little. You're like, why is everyone upset?
Yeah.
Things of that nature.
Right, that's the point. Like, maybe Sarah brings that up. Like, maybe the kids feel like it might be, like, in any situation, maybe they think it's their fault,
Yeah, or that too. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Well, and that's the thing, like, because I don't want them thinking like they did anything wrong or they caused it,
Unless they did. No, I'm kidding.
Because like it's true. Because like as a kid, like you may make your grandparents aggravated because the two of them are watching, the grandkids, and you may think like, oh man, I made Grandma really mad, and Grandpa, yelled at Grandma or something like that, So I just try to make him feel like, hey, it's not their fault, or it's not because of them, or something like that, depending on whatever the issue was and what they told me,
Right.
That's pretty smart. Never thought about doing that.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
I'm like, I just yell a lot. Like, yeah, that's what they do.
Right. No, I mean,
exactly.
It's true,
Right?
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah. So I don't know.
No, but that's like, that's probably.
I don't know if it's the right thing to do. I don't know if I'm doing too much, or I don't know. I just, I try to, what it is, because the whole idea is like you're never going to be around your kids 24/7, right? And you just hope that whatever they see or whatever they encounter in their life, they can navigate and interpret in ways that don't affect them,
Yeah.
And I just try to kind of give them those tools to be like, hey, you know what, this isn't my fault. Let me just walk away from this, or when not to walk away or when to walk away. I don't know.
No, but it's hard because like you're establishing yourself also as parents, right? And your parents, especially maybe with birth order, like, I'm the younger one. They probably still, it was there's some growing pains when trying to figure out like where everybody fits and everyone's personality when everyone's together and the kids start acting out. Maybe I know this is like a different conversation, but like, just trying to like, it's lanes tend to overlap, and it's hard, especially if kids are acting out. Like something I heard someone say once at work, which was pretty good, which I should probably say it too, is this idea, and it was pretty good. Like kind of, I was thinking about when other people see your kids acting out, and then like you're there, and like you should be the one to maybe discipline them, and then all of a sudden either they try to jump on and try to like give their opinion, or they start to discipline them. I don't love that sometimes, and I kind of heard one time someone say like, the way they handle it is saying like, oh, like you did such a great job raising your kids, beautiful spouse, and they did, they grew up right, they have great understanding of how to treat people right, but you did your job, that you did a great job, but now it's our time, so let us be the ones to take care of it. And I'm like, that's probably a very politically good way to do that.
Yes.
But it's sometimes you got to set boundaries in a polite way or some way, but I think it's healthier if it's bothering you to find a way to kind of make things work right, because when things start to overlap, it could be hard.
Yes.
And I think that's like the toughest part too, is just having that conversation with your in-laws and with your own parents, is just like to set those boundaries, because they may not always take it that way, take it the right way, and you're just trying to establish yourself as a parent, right? And all your values that you want to teach your children, that was passed down to you, but maybe a little bit different from what was passed down to you, so it's hard. And I know I've had that conversation a couple times with both parents, and it wasn't always received well.
Right.
So you do have to be prepared for that, but ultimately the goal is, hey, look, we all love each other. We're all family. We're trying to, set our boundaries and connect with each other, so that we don't always argue and fight in front of everybody. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I think biggest thing though is probably first establish all that stuff with your spouse, because I think you guys need to be on the same page of like, what are your non-negotiables when it comes to like food or sleep, bedtime, or whatever it is that you and your spouse feel like are super important to you guys, and that that maybe when they go to this house that they're probably are they going to break the rules when they go to like Nana's house? They know that Nana's going to make the cupcakes and stuff like that, and maybe have more than, and like, is that okay?
You deal with your parents, I'll deal with mine.
Is it something you guys
I don't know if that's always
like
for the best, because like
really
in some
lean
ways,
into. So and then like some conversations
doesn't
I feel like
allow
might
those
become
moments
better
when they do happen to
from
like
from your spouse needs to talk to their set of parents, perhaps,
in the way that the communication needs to go through.
Hopefully you get to a point with your family where you can talk,
like in some ways I kind of think like
say things. Like every family is like different.
I mean, every situation is different, but I think it's kind of good to like figure that out.
Jean's mom,
and
since I
like
was
you said,
16
you
years
got
old,
tossed in like a little fast forward.
We've had
you didn't really have the time to unpack that, but
I
see it now like that we're like a little older and like, or I should say we're older. The kids are, well, yeah, of course we're older, but
there were times that I would get like a little uptight, like in our family dynamic, like our situation also changed. Like we all lived together. We had a whole conversation about it. We were newly married. Sophia came home faster than we expected.
We split like I do with my parents.
In terms of like we weren't planning to get pregnant right away. We got pregnant right away. Things like that.
Discuss it tonight.
So
figure what it is you want to get back to them. They can wait a couple hours, and then I'll be the one to deal with it.
I probably could have
like that was bothering her. We had to talk about it because it's like sometimes.
But he was always very good at
navigating that can be a little tricky.
His mom about
how do you guys feel like with having like that
like the time that she tried to feed Sophia sauce, which is like saucy beans, like it's like almost like the liquid, and she tried to feed her that at like 4 months old, and I was like, no, I was like, you cannot do that. I was like, no, of all the things, don't feed her, please, until like right, so and he was very good at like facilitating those like conversations and things like that, so there were times that things were a little tense between me and her, but like I think overall, because like we kind of then got like on the same page, and like she kind of like let us take the lead, things were better,
yeah jokes that were funny in the 80s that are not funny now, like
and wrap up the show. We're done.
Yeah, let's just call it right there, guys, because she nailed it right on the head.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's like ashing, like flicking the ash into the sauce. Like, oh yeah. 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 No way. I know. But that's so sweet. You think about like how hard that must have been.
Oh yeah, I don't think it should be like all the time you handle your parents. I think certain conversations are better off coming from you versus your spouse.
Yeah. Right.
And
like the
but
yellow
your spouse
walls
should be
there.
able to say to your the other set of parents to say like, oh no, we don't do that. Like, because
do you ever feel like
I am also the parent.
On the flip
it's
side,
not just your child.
do you
who's
ever
the
feel
parent
like
of
your
grandkids? Like, I need to be able to say, we don't do that. Please don't say that.
But do you feel like ever that you have more tolerance or more patience with?
That could be like
parents?
controversial.
The opposite spouse.
Verbally,
when you're talking about like the other set of grandparents, like sometimes like with my wife's parents. or like my parents,
Correct.
you sort of have this like inner child of like the stuff that
I
happened like when you're
take
younger.
for granted, like I said, like I had a
your
well-established
memories of like
relationship
things
with
you
my
maybe less
mother-in-law,
tolerant.
and she was
But
also,
sometimes
you
like
know, she
your
has
spouse
passed.
will talk to your own
And she
parents
was a phenomenal
with a different set of
mother,
eyes, and they
role
sometimes
model.
maybe are.
So like I was
things
able
that
to
maybe
comfortably say
you're like
things,
almost
you know?
like
but
you
there were
feel
some
the tension
conversations
rising.
where culturally
don't
I was
have
like,
that, and
I was like,
sometimes maybe
gee, that's more like
can-
you
they
handle
can
that
have
one.
surprisingly
you know,
more
and, like,
patience
dance
than you
around
do.
with that topic and deal with her. You know it's coming from me, but like you know, so that was that. Like with my dad, I would like Gene would just speak to my dad whatever way he too has passed. But he's like a rough and tough kind of dude, so like you could just say whatever and he'd be okay with it. You know, like my dad was a heavy smoker, so when we had Sophia, I was like, Daddy, we can't like come to your house, like it's all smoky, you know. So he's like, no, you have to come for Sunday sauce. Like I'm making sauce, you guys got to come. And we're like, no, we can bring it to the house. He's like, no, come. So I was like, all right. And I'm like, oh my God, my poor baby's gonna get like sick, you know, breathing in this air.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes. No, we're basically. But bless my dad's heart. Without me really, like, you know, once he heard that like we really weren't like trying to come over to the house, but he was insisting upon it, he aired out the house for like 2 days before Sunday.
Wow.
Did it make a difference?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
But you know what?
Like,
It was.
But he tried.
And he had the windows. Yes, and he had the windows open, and he made a big deal that he was
She's
going
gonna hit me
outside
harder.
to smoke his cigarettes and stuff like that. So it was like, "Aw, Dad, I love you."
Yeah.
It still doesn't
Oh my
wipe
God, that's
away all
crazy.
like 10 years worth of smoke because he had moved that, you know. But like he was like he was trying to respect our boundaries on that, you know. So I appreciate that.
Wait, to be clear, are you still gonna beat me with a spoon, or is that not okay? Just checking. That is wild. Let's talk about that for a second. Let's talk a little bit about this whole thing of like of like that wild feeling of the change from like you having kids and like what were some of the things that drove you kind of like that you thought were like important that they kind of disregarded, or like that like things changed. Like I remember like for instance like my wife's parents were like, we never had cereal that had any sort of like, you know, sugar or color or marshmallows. I'm like, you know, me too. That was a rule of grocery store. But I mean, our kids, we were like, well,
yes,
you know, down the road at some point, I guess they're going to have something because we can't, you know, it can't be grown up Amish.
Oh, yeah. For
sorry if we offended any of our Amish listeners.
I think it has to deal with
the idea
like
was
your
wild that one
whole
day,
childhood, right? Like your
my kids go to,
comfortability with your
their house,
parents
and
and just like anything that they may say or whatever,
parents,
you know, it may trigger you, and then you just feel comfortable to lash out or just be who you are towards them. Where you know, with your other set of parents, you're still being who you are, but it's like more of a like an outside eye, third perspective kind of, you know, like this isn't my family type of deal, you know? I mean, it is your family, but it is not your family, you know?
You don't have like all that stuff that like triggers like inside, you know what I mean? Like there's something to be said, like, you know, like like I can remember like my mom's house, like we weren't allowed to like eat anywhere besides the kitchen. Like it has to be
doesn't happen the same way too. It's also on the flip side. Like I remember, you know, as
like
parents, I'm sure like some of you listening, maybe you have younger kids, or remember these moments. Like we had a very hard time with our kids with sleeping at night.
And I was like,
so like the nap routine was so important. I mean, at least that's the way we still perceived it was. I don't know, maybe if it was, but I remember going through the hellscape of the first 6 months. Was did we get dinged for saying hell twice? The third time?
Like over like a little paper towel. She got her
I remember like, it was really rough, and we were trying to build routines.
I was like, Mom, no, we're going to the kitchen. Come on,
my parents would take them out for the day, and like it was really great because they would do stuff and they would go places, and like because they would get really bored.
No touchy room.
But like the nap was like caked into the car ride, which was like so not what we were trying to do for our kids. So like when they wouldn't have these like naps, we would like throw them off for night. And like we had a hard time as parents trying to like, you know, weigh that balance out of like, you know, like how much do we need to push back on this nap thing versus like impacting their plan to like go somewhere for the day. And like that's hard because like, you know, the routines as parents, like that is you know, it depends, you know, what kind of personality you have. Like Sarah's probably laughing. She's like, "Hi, you and your routines, man." But you know, that was like an important thing for us. And we at the time, we really felt like they were overstepping their bounds with like messing with that, you know, like when they were 3 or 4, it wasn't a big deal. But like, you know, in that first couple of years, it was like, come on, man, can't do that to us.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. I'm trying to think. Like, my mom definitely, like, every like rule I feel like she ever had for us, like, or even just like being nice and like understanding. Like, she is like, she's that with the kids, and like versus with me, she was just like, whatever, tough it up, like, you know.
Oh wow, interesting cultural difference. Wow, what a different cultural difference. That's crazy. Yeah.
Right.
Oh, grab one. Sorry.
Right. Right.
Right.
I was like, yeah. Right. No, I can imagine that, because like, again, like I had, you know, I live with my mother-in-law, so like there were sometimes it felt like I didn't have a choice, like, you know, but like I kind of just rolled with it because I didn't really know either, like, you know, like I was just like, all right, you're kind of like the expert, so like I always like joke around like we free range the kids, like they were just kind of like they nap when they needed to. They like I don't know. She just said like, okay, they're tired, let they're eat, let them eat. So I'm like, all right, you know, like so like the biggest things for me was like wanting to feed them like homemade food. That was like a big thing. I wanted to breastfeed. That was a big thing.
Oh my god,
that was something like
and then,
my
like,
mother-in-law
dealing with different philosophies or like different parenting.
Like,
I guess you kind of worked it out.
For the first like month or so, she was like just not computing in her head. Like that was like a good thing. And my mom was like, "No, breastfeeding is excellent. Do that." And then my mother-in-law,
right?
Because in Haiti, if you were poor, you breastfed. And like so, she was like, "You have money for Similac. Why are you not? Exactly. You know, like." Give the bottle, man. And I'm like, no, I'm like, here's a bottle of breast milk, and she's like, no, like it was just like not computing her brain. Like she's like, we have money, like why are we not giving Similac, you know? So
I did not. I wouldn't even think of that.
So
yeah,
that made that was like a difference. And then, but then there were like silly things like where it was just like, you know, like feet, like obviously the baby on the tummy was no good to sleep with, but Jean's mom would have Sophia sleep on her belly because she was comfortable. But like she would like literally like on her lap, she would like put a whole blanket, and like Buzzing was a tall woman, so she had a lot of lap to give. She had long legs, so. She would have like a blanket, because I could never do it to the kids. They would like fall off in 5 seconds. Yep, like whoops. She would just have them like, you know, with a blanket, a little pillow, and like on her belly. And I'm like, you know what? I'm like, okay, like as long as it's not in the bed and like around, surrounded by like a bunch of blankets and pillows, like it's on her lap. You know, like she's there, she's patting them, they're going to sleep, they're happy. You know, like all right, like you know, like maybe. I'm sure someone's like, oh my God, that's still dangerous. I don't know. But like, it didn't feel so bad. As long as she wasn't like on the bed, you know, like, so that felt good. And then like, Then there were like silly things like Sophia had hiccups, and she used to take a piece of newspaper or string and wet it and put it on her forehead to make her stop hiccuping. And I would say it actually worked. I don't know why it worked.
Really?
But I would just look at my kid and be like,
God.
my poor baby. There she is with like a little piece of paper on her forehead. And she'd be like, hiccup, hiccup. And then, yeah, it would stop. Because like, she'd be like, oh, she has the hiccups. Give me a little piece of newspaper, And I'm like, all right. And she'd just like wet it. She'd be like, and like stick it on her forehead. I'm like, oh, my baby. So it's like balance, Yeah, no, it's balance. Like, like, okay, like, was the newspaper on the forehead harmful? No, whatever. My kid looks silly for 5 seconds. My kid sleeping on the bed on her tummy, that feels dangerous. So please don't do that. And she respected it. So we're good to go, What about you, Levine?
Oh, yeah, I have a similar thing. Like, yeah, so actually, one of the things you mentioned that I really liked, Sarah, was balance. And I think that is, like, a key takeaway here is trying to find the balance between, like, your parents, your in-laws, and yourselves as parents. Like, I know I've mentioned to my in-laws many times. If they're listening, they'd be like, yep. I mentioned to them many times, like, every time they come by, and it's really cute. They bring, my their Papa, Papa Joe. He always brings like, a snack or some type of goodie for them, And the goodies, like, they're not always the healthiest goodies,
Right. And that's why they're goodies.
Yeah.
Right.
And I'm just like,
called veggies.
And I'm like, listen, can we cut it back a little bit? Can we, maybe not every time you see them, because you're around a lot, right? So maybe not every time you see them, or just like, once or twice. And at first they'll listen, then they'll listen for like a week, and then like it'll start increasing a little bit more, and then we have the conversation again, and then sometimes they'll even sneak it, like when I'm not even looking. Ooh. Papa Joe will sneak it, and I've caught you sneaking it, Papa Joe.
Papa Joe, you got an entire cake in your hand. What is happening?
No
one's birthday.
But I as frustrating as it can be, I also recognize what they're trying to do, and he's just trying to show his love in a different way. And I think Sarah said it too. They may not always, their way of showing love may be different from the way you show love, and that's okay. So I got to try to navigate that and balance it. And, I tell my kids now, because my kids will listen to me, and I'll say, hey, listen, if Papa brings you something, you can take it, it's fine, but we'll save it for later.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
And that's just the way of, finding the balance between that issue. So
I like that. So I'm going to take a look at this BuzzFeed article, because I think that I honestly think we hit on a lot of these things. So I think we're going to probably end up doing is linking in the show notes, because some of the things they talk about in this article might be kind of a good read for you guys at home, is just kind of common experiences about giving gifts that your parents haven't approved without communicating expectations. The communicating expectations thing is something that we kind of hit on as kind of a big thing, right? Not respecting parent schedules, criticizing parenting style. That's a whole different story. Not respecting boundaries, not working through issues as they arise. But I think the big thing that they did bring up in here that we didn't really think about is this idea of generationally, about the idea of apologizing. Having a sincere apology sometimes is something that's a little bit generational. I think as parents, I think we recognize that when we mess up, we could say we're sorry, but that's something that maybe, is a little tricky. But that's in the article. We'll link that to you guys in the show notes. So we're back for this part of the show. It's called Time to Unplug. This is where we talk about the things that are going on outside of our children, because sometimes when the grandparents leave and the kids go to sleep, we just have to have a little something carved out for ourselves with our spouses. It gives us a chance to decompress, because you'll be a better we if you take care of me. No one's behind me. Good. Okay. Who's looking down the stairs? We'll both be better we's. No, I'm kidding. All right. Cool. All right. So Sarah D, what do you got this week?
Okay, so I don't know if I'm really unplugging. It's more like a plug-in, but ChatGPT. I know it's a little controversial, the AI technology and stuff like that, but like I found these like really great pairs of shoes like on Amazon, and I'm like, how would I style? Like, I really want them, but how would I realistically style without having to get like a whole new wardrobe? So I took the picture, put in ChatGPT. I was like, give me 3 like options with this outfit. And it gave me like an image. Originally, it gave me like verbally, like, or like written down, like how to style it. But I was like, I need to actually see it. So I was like, give me like one image of an outfit. And it gave me an outfit idea. And I was like, this is amazing. I was like, this is so cool. So I don't know, because like every time I go get dressed, but like maybe for something like like how I'm gonna fit something into my wardrobe that I really want, and like like you have like Pinterest and stuff like that, but I feel like Pinterest is like a scrolling, like you have to scroll and look and like, but like with ChatGPT, it was just like, here, give me some outfits. So I'm like, okay, good. I have most of the stuff here. I could recreate this outfit. Cool, done. So.
Sarah, I had a similar thing like that with me, like. We actually had to redo my bathroom, not because I'm like a billionaire and I can redo my bathroom. I actually had to go through a chart. So it was a big issue. But I bought all these pieces of furniture and things that go in the bathroom, and I didn't know how it was going to look, but I literally took the list, put it into ChatGPT, and I said, generate an image with all these items, and it did, and I was able to show like the people that were constructing my bathroom, like, this is what I want it to look like, and it was perfect.
Oh my God, amazing.
So cool.
Yeah.
Look at that. Really cool. See? less things for our brains to have to like think about,
I'm laughing because I'm thinking of both of you guys right now. That is wild. Because when I was turning into a new grown up from the time when I was like fake grown up, I guess, I don't know. Mike, I was talking to Mike, and I was buying a suit to go for, because remember we go to graduation.
Oh yes, I remember.
Different graduations, and like Sarah and I would laugh because like I'd be like, oh, this outfit has pleats. I think it's a lot outdated. She's like, yeah, it probably is. So I was talking to Mike, and Mike's like, this is what you got to get. You go to the store, you get your suit, you got to get a vest.
Yes,
I'm like, dude, for real? He's like, yes. It's a whole conversation. I'm calling Mike. I'm like in the freaking changing room and talking to Mike on the phone, and then he's like, this is what you do. I was trying to figure out shoes and a belt, and he's like, this is what you do. You go, you type in the name of the suit, whatever, and then you go on, and then you look at what they're wearing, the models are wearing with it, and that helps you figure out
God, that's
like
so
the shoes.
smart.
But like, the two of you guys should both be in the space program, because that was incredible. Like that was between Sarah's ChatGPT and Mike Levine's idea for that. I was like, oh, all right.
That's how you do it. That's a good idea too.
See.
Yeah, because he's like, they're probably not going to be walking around with no shoes on, so you should probably see
That's true.
God, impressive. Mike Levine, since you're rocking it, and Sarah, you're rocking it. What you got? What's going on?
Best dressed.
Well, this time I tried to take a different approach. Like, I always pick a movie or a video game, but recently I've been listening to a lot of like old school music and that I used to listen to when I was younger, and specifically Linkin Park. And I didn't realize that they had a new. Actually, it was sad because the lead singer passed away a couple of years ago, 7 years ago, and they picked a new lead singer, and she's pretty cool. I like her,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and they added her to the band, and they came out with this new album, and
no kidding.
Yeah, and it was I forgot. I'm trying to remember the name of the album real quick because it's Heavy as the Crown, I believe. Heavy as the Crown, and that's cool. It was pretty cool. It was a pretty cool album. I was listening to it on the car ride home. I'm like, oh, I should really listen to a lot of music I used to listen to, because I generally like turn on the radio on the drive home or kind of check out as I drive, and it was relaxing. It was relaxing listening to these old songs that I used to listen to all the time. So
did you hear that in the oldie station or in the grocery store?
And nothing more relaxing than a grungy rock band,
Yes.
All the feels. I know, I feel
yeah.
I love
it. Especially when you had a hard day at work. You're just like, you're headbanging to like whatever you're.
Oh, I know. I got the Offspring in like heavy rotation, and like I'll be like, oh, let's listen to something more modern, like Fall Out Boy, and then I realize how old that is too, and I'm like, oh my god, this is wild.
You gotta get an angsty teens
I dig it though.
All right,
your
now
own, like,
I have
little,
to listen
your playlist.
to this new woman. Emily Armstrong is her name. Cool.
Yes, that's it. She's really
I'm
cool.
gonna check it out too.
So what about you, Mike?
Like a while ago, Sarah and I was like telling you, I was like, you got to listen to the Blink-182 album. All right, so let's take a look here. We're all like popping on technology today. This is wild. Yeah. So one of the things that I'm sharing for my unplugged thing, which is really wild, I don't know, it's just an experience, is I have AirPods the Pros. I got the twos, whatever. They were like really cheap last year during the holidays, and mine were fizzling out, so I picked these up because I had like the noise canceling stuff, which I use sometimes, but sometimes it feels like you're underwater when people are talking. It's a little weird. But one of the things they just announced, and I tried it out, was the AirPod does translation. So live translation. So we tried it out. Somebody at work speaks Spanish. I just want to try it out. I don't know why this is my Pairing Unplugged, but this is so cool. So we did the translation, and the way it works is it's in beta, but you can still try it out. You download the language pack. So like you could do French, Spanish, German, English, UK. I don't know why it would do that, but I guess if you've seen like Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels, I guess it's kind of hard to understand. But a couple other things. But anyway, so they speak, and then on your phone, on your earbuds, whatever they're called, the AirPods, you like hold down both in the same time once you install it, and then it like enables like translation mode. And then when they're talking, Siri is speaking to you in the target language.
Wow.
It's translating, and then you see it on your screen too. And then, that would be great if it was, that doesn't really help you in most circumstances because conversations are two-way. Yes, so if the person also has AirPod Pros, then they're wearing them, then it translates back to them if they choose to translate back from like English back to Spanish. So then like you could be having this conversation from the future, and then they could be understanding it while you're both speaking in a different language. It's crazy. It's like almost like we're one step closer to Star Wars.
Yes.
So
is this universal translators from Star Trek now? Like this is crazy,
exactly, right?
Crazy.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the next iteration is going to be like wearable, AR glasses that are going to do it too. But I just thought it was really a wild experience. Like just this idea of like having more of an understanding of the world. I mean, I know that when we were traveling in Canada, we went on a little family vacation. We were heavily, Jake was showing us, we were heavily using the Google, I just said the Google, I said like I'm 85. We were using the app part of Google, which is the translate. And then you hold your phone up to signs and to menus, and it would translate the entire thing, or take a picture and translate the whole thing like right there. But like the audio was really wild. So don't know the next time I'm going back to Canada, but would like to try that out. It's really cool. So if you want to have a little technology theme Parenting Unplugged, this was the week for you. But I think we're already on time here, so it's been a lot of fun hanging out with you guys for this episode where we discussed grandparents, boundaries, having a little patience, cross-talking with the other grandparents, having a better understanding of how to, get that family dynamic working right, and how to have a little bit of patience. But we like to take a moment to thank our listeners and supporters for donating to the show. If you want to help support this show so we keep making episodes like this one, we have a link to donate in the show notes. If you don't have the means to do so, we really appreciate it. Tell your friends, your family about the podcast so we can reach more listeners. Maybe we can learn from them, and they can learn from us in this growing community. If you get a chance, please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. We can't wait to explore this parenting thing again with you next week in Hey the Parents, because every week it's an honest discussion about raising kids. Don't forget to hug your kids and charge those Chromebooks. That's new for me, for Sarah, and for Mike, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Bruce. Hey the Parents is produced by Mike Levine, Sarah D, and me, Michael Haidt. I edit and mix our show. Our intro voice recording was done by the one and only Coltrane. If you like our show, we hope that you consider going to the show notes to help support the podcast. Check the notes for social media information and contacts, and we look forward to seeing you next time.